Okay, I hope everyone can hear me fine. Um, just like to welcome everybody to this webinar titled Pivoting Your Business Post COVID-19 by using the business model canvas. So this year has been a very difficult one for many businesses, and mine included, and some of you also, I think, can't wait for 2021, the year that you expect that your business can be back to normal again. So I thought now that we're near the end of 2020, I'd like to give you some tips on how you can pivot your business once the pandemic is over, or at least nearly over. So first thing first, if you have some question, please use the Q&A tab on your screen to ask question. Now, in the interest of time, I will not be answering question live. However, we do have someone monitoring the Q&A panel as I'm talking, and your question will be answered at the earliest convenience. Now, since this is a free webinar, some of you might be watching from other live channels like YouTube or Facebook. Now, we may not be able to respond promptly to the question asked on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, but if you just ask your question anyway, we will do our best to respond after the webinar. And if you happen to watch this on other live channel, the best thing is for you to subscribe to our newsletter so you know to register to our event next time we do another webinar. And there will be some limited time offer at the end of this webinar for our upcoming promotion. If you can't stay until the end, let us know. We will see if we can send you the offer if they're still available. But it's a first come and first serve basis. Now, those watching on YouTube or Facebook, unfortunately, we cannot show you the offer. But again, do sign up to our newsletter so we can send out other future offers. So today our discussion revolves around a lot about giving you different ideas on how you can pivot your business post-COVID. I will first talk about myself and my business and why you should listen to me. Secondly, before digging into the issue of pivoting, I will discuss why it is important for you as business leaders and practitioners to have a strategic thinking. Now, it's not enough that you're thinking about marketing and sales all the time. There are bigger things at play all the time. Then we will talk about the business model canvas, a tool, if you're not already familiar with, that you will find indispensable for your business. And a large part of today's webinar also discuss about the concept of job to be done, which we will all put together with a case study of a well-known brand that you can easily relate to. So just a little bit about me. My name is Emmanuel Setyawan. I am the owner and founder of Accolade Coaching. Another thing that you need to know about me and my business is that we are accredited affiliate of Blue Ocean Strategy Australia. We're just a handful of people, one of a handful of people in Australia who is accredited affiliate of Blue Ocean Strategy Australia. And if you're not familiar with our group, we are a network of consultants who is specializing in delivering strategy facilitation using the Blue Ocean Strategy framework in Australia. And the way we work, although not so much as at the moment during the pandemic, we work in collaboration with other consultants to deliver workshops based on the Blue Ocean Strategy framework. So that's Blue Ocean Strategy Australia and other organizations that we're in affiliation with, which I accidentally pressed the button, with Australia-Indonesia Business Council. I'm one of the committee member of the Australia-Indonesia Business Council. We are the peak body in Australia for any bilateral business relationship between Australia and Indonesia. We're also a partner organization of the Chinese Professional Business Association, established some 40 years ago in Victoria. And another proud partner is the Australian Trade and Logistics Corporation, the one-stop shop for your import and export needs. Last but not least, check out my podcast, Talk with Emmanuel, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, where you can listen to various strategy topics and my interviews with various industry leaders. So, what exactly do we do in Accolade Coaching? Well, I started Accolade Coaching as your usual garden variety business coaching firm. But over the years, after serving several clients, I began to realize that a lot of people have no way of succeeding in business because they lack the big picture, the big strategic picture. And it doesn't matter how good my clients were in sales, marketing, advertising, you name it. If they got the big picture wrong, then eventually the business is doomed to fail. And that's when we started to focus more on strategy facilitation as our core business. Now, strategy facilitation is only as good as the underlying frameworks or methodology that is being used, which in our case, we use only time-proven strategy framework that's backed by case study. So the first that we use is the strategizer framework. And secondly, as you would have expected from my introduction, is the Blue Ocean strategy framework. Now, we might employ other methodology in the future, but for now, these two are the one that we've been using to talk to people, to help clients, simply because they work, they're visual, they're scalable, and they're applicable to business and organization of all types and sizes. If you've been to our website recently, you might notice that we've actually sell e-learning courses. Well, not recently, we've been doing that for a few years now. And you might have noticed that the one of them is actually a sales course. Well, this is an old course that we've used with clients before and have proven to be working. So if you're looking to equip your strategic team with some sales knowledge, this is certainly a good e-learning course for you. But the core of our service now is strategy facilitation. So now let's talk about how to pivot your business post-COVID-19 using the business model canvas. And as you know, many businesses have suffered this year and even having to close their doors for a long period of time during the COVID-19 pandemic. But now that the world is starting to get the grasp of this pandemic and a vaccine has been discovered and they're on the way to mass produce it, the question is now, how can we recover from the massive economic impact that coronavirus has on businesses? Now, one idea that's been trending all over the world now is the concept of pivoting your business. So pivoting is not a new buzzword. Many businesses have, in the past, have pivoted their ideas into a new concept that has given them an incredible success. One example a long time ago, to start with, is a company that we know now as Nokia. Well, Nokia didn't start as a mobile phone company. In fact, before the turn of the 20th century, Nokia was founded in Finland as a pulp mill company, which then sells everything else from toilet paper to car tires, which is obviously not easy, and it requires an overhaul of everything that you do. And it wasn't until, I think, around about late 80s that Nokia became completely a telecommunication company. If you're like Nokia today, it'll be crazy to make such a dramatic pivot from a non-tech to completely new tech producing company. But before you revamp your sales, your marketing, and your entire operation in order to make a pivot, you need to have the bigger picture of your business. In other words, you need to have a look at the entire issue of a strategic level, at a strategic level. If you're a small business, it might be relatively easier to do, although your issue is probably different. Like with small business, it's typically more of a resource issue rather than a perspective. And I will touch on that a bit later. But as your business size grew, how can you have an eagle eye view of your entire business model? Well, this is where the business model canvas can come in handy. It laid out the essential building block necessary for a business or an organization to operate and succeed in the market. So what is the business model canvas? Well, the business model canvas is a strategic tool which originated as a PhD dissertation by Alexander Osterwalder, which then became his first book, The Business Model Generation, which he wrote together with Yves Pichner and cover four main areas of business: customers, offers, infrastructure, and financial liability. Now, if you're trained with Strategizer before, like me, especially if you do their workshop in Switzerland, these four areas tends to change names a little bit, depends on the main purpose of the training. But for the purpose of this webinar, we will use this naming as the main areas that the business model canvas is addressing. The business model canvas also introduced us to the 9 building blocks that made up a business model: customer segments, value propositions, channels, customer relationship, revenue stream, key resources, key activities, key partnerships, and cost structures. Now, I'm not going to go into detailed explanation today as to what each of them are. That's not the purpose of this webinar. I want everyone to come out of this webinar having some ideas on the opportunity to pivot your business once the pandemic and all its restriction is over. And I'm showing you that the business model canvas is one of the tools you can use to do this. Now, if you're new to this concept, don't worry too much. You can read the individual building block definition in the book, Business Model Generation, at your leisure time. But for now, just understand that these are the building blocks that made up a business model and what you need to make the pivot. It applies to any business of any size, not just large business. Even nonprofit can use this model. Look, all this will become clear once we get to the case study part of how all these building blocks apply to pivoting the business. Before you make a decision to pivot, it is important for you to scan the entire business strategic landscape. Look into your market, look into your offering, look into the resources that you have, look into your current partners, what things change, what stays the same. Because the last thing that you want is to make a strategic shift that actually ends up in disaster. You see, 73% of startup fails because they create a product that nobody wants. Now, there isn't really a research done on the exact cause of general business failures, but I dare say that too is caused by a product or a service or an offering that nobody wants. So it's really important for you to understand the strategic landscape of your market, your industry, your competition, everything that might be crucial to know before making the strategic shift. Now, just to give you some pointers, generally speaking, what stays the same are the job to be done and the relative pain and gain. I will explain in more detail later about the job to be done concept. But in essence, time change, but job stays the same. For example, the way people listen to music have changed for the last 100 years. People used to go to opera, listening to gramophone. And when I was little, we used little cassette tapes in my high school. And we started using CDs more and more. Then came the iPod or the digital music player, and now practically everybody has the music on their phone. But if you think about the whole thing of music listening, the job stays the same, which is to listen to music. And the relative pain and gain is also similar in that manner. People always have issues with, for example, convenience, price, efficiency, and so on. Now, this pain and gain, though, they may change with time, but the apple never fall far from the tree. So now let's get into some examples of what may change, especially after the pandemic. Obviously, the buying power changed. With so many job loss and business closure, affordability is not the same as it used to. So in order to pivot effectively, you need to look at your revenue model. How do you generate revenue from your customer segments? And as I mentioned in the previous slide, the relative pain and gain will change slightly. For example, with many people now working from home, commuting is not a very high in the pain point. Many professionals and businesses are now looking for a better way to help them working remotely, which is why we at Accolade Coaching now is specializing in nothing else but remote strategy services. You know, funny thing is we've seen this trend in 2019 and have started to make the shift even before that. A lot of the tools that we use now for facilitation started being developed and used in 2019. I don't know if you want to call it good timing or bad timing, but what we started building in 2019 was immediately battle tested in early 2020. So different pain and gains will require a different offering because now your customers' value mindset have dramatically shifted. Another example is your customer touchpoint. Obviously, if your main way of building relationship is through a certain touchpoint, for example, retail, to make an efficient pivot, you need also to make a shift in how you engage your customers. Online is the obvious choice, but as you will see later in the case study discussion, it's more than just creating a website. Delivery mechanism has also changed. In Australia. Nationally, different states now still limits the movement of people, which significantly affect the delivery mechanism. Some logistic operators also reduce their fleet to create a COVID-safe workplace. Supply mechanism has also changed. Food manufacturing in Victoria, for example, were required to significantly reduce their workforce and limit the kind of things that they do. So this is just a few examples of what might have changed in your business. But when it comes to pivoting, where do we actually start for real? So the first point of question in every strategy discussion should be the discussion on your customer segment. What changes in your customer segment? How can we formulate a better business model that will accommodate the changes in our customer segments? Now, this is seemingly a difficult question to answer. And to be able to efficiently answer this point, we go back to the business model canvas, specifically the customer segment part of the business model canvas. And this is where we work in more details on mapping the profile of the customer segments. Just to be clear, we use the term customer profile map and customer segment building block interchangeably, but rest assured that they're the same thing. So what is customer profile constitutes? The customer profile allows you to map out what is your customer jobs, what their pains, and what their gains. As I have mentioned previously, time change, but the nature of job stays the same. Now, I had previously used the analogy of listening to music to describe the concept of job to be done. Some of you might have heard this concept for the first time, but the job to be done concept have actually been around for several years. I will touch slightly further on the job to be done in a few upcoming slides, but if you want to look it up now, the job to be done theory is coined by at least two different people. Firstly is Tony Alwick, the founder of Strategin, and the other is the late Clayton Christensen of Insight, or perhaps better known with his reputation in Harvard Business School. So if you want to get started on understanding the job to be done theory, look at these two people on Google, Tony Alwick and Clayton Christensen. But for now, I simply want you to understand there are three types of customer jobs that you need to know. The first type is the functional job. Second is social job. And third is emotional job. You see, the beauty about seeing the customer from this point of view of the job to be done is that with every job, there are certain pains and gains that are involved. And discovering these pains and gains will help you understand how your customer would like to get their jobs done, and how can your products and services create such value that compels your customer to do business with you. Look, functional job is probably the easiest to understand, which is simply getting things done properly and timely. For example, if you buy a car, you expect the car to start when you switch on the ignition. And when you put it in gear and step on the pedal, it will just roll nicely. Social job is all about helping your customer get the desired social standing in their circle. For example, they want to look good. They want to be seen as kind, help them achieve popularity, and so on. Emotional job, on the other hand, is all about feeling. Ask yourself this question: how can you make your customer to achieve the desired feelings with your products and services? For example, have you ever wondered why people feel happier to be in a place that have better interior decoration or surroundings compared to others? If you also think about how gambling venues get people to be emotionally excited about winning big, although most of it is probably a lie, or not, or all of it. The point is, they know how to target the emotional jobs of these people. So what is pain? What is gain? When we talk about customer pains and gains, you probably have some ideas what I'm talking about. But it is difficult to just get the idea of pains and not being able to quantify it. So does gains. So let's now define some of the things that can contribute to customer pain and gain. So what are some of the customer pains? I'll give you a exact example. Undesired outcome, obstacles, risk, and so on. Now, a few important things to mention about customer gains. There are different kinds of gains. There are gains that are required, there are gains that's desired, and there are also gains that's deemed as gain when it is unexpected. Again, we won't have time to explain all this concept individually in details. Look, if there are specific topics today that you would like to dig deeper, we will be launching a series of premium webinars and workshops to get into the details of the components of the business modeling. After this webinar concludes, you will receive a post-event survey in your email. Write down what topics that you would like to have a further discussion on, and we will try to do it in the next few webinars. I will see if I can package it to be covered as a free webinars, but if not, we'll turn it into premium webinars at a low cost for you. And if you're interested, there's also a business model basic online course that I will launch in a few weeks' time as part of Accolade Coaching Premium membership subscription. This is completely different with the one that's published by the strategizer. But if you want to be notified when it's launched and get the discount at the same time, make sure at least you sign up to our newsletter. It's free and you'll get notified of our upcoming events and promotion. Right. So those of you who are watching this on our webinar platform, on our website, you are already in our newsletter, so you don't have to do anything else. But if you're watching this on other channels, you do need to sign up to our newsletter so we can keep you updated. For now, I want to leave you with this challenge, probably almost impossible challenge. I want you to ask yourself this question. How does COVID-19 change my customer segment's pain and gain? Or I'll say it differently. How does crisis changes my customer segments and pains and gains? Because the question will be relevant even though we're not in the middle of the pandemic. Well, that's the nearly impossible challenge. But the good news is the nature of jobs don't change much over the years. As I said earlier, the job to be done theory was coined by at least two different people. First is Tony Alwick, the CEO and founder of Strategy. And secondly, the late Clayton Christensen of Insight and Harvard Business School. So let's go deeper into this now. Let's define what is a job. So we define jobs as the things that your customers are trying to get done in their work or in their life. There was this famous case study conducted by Clayton Christensen about his work with a large fast food chain to improve the sale of their milkshake product. So just like any other companies, when it comes to improving their products, this company hire consultants. They talk to customers. Customers tell them what they want. They give the customer what they want, and it has absolutely no impact on sales. Heard that story before? So this really puzzles the company. So they try to follow everything that their marketing department tells them to do, and yet there's absolutely no impact on sales. So Clayton Christensen and his team asked a different question. What job causes people to hire a milkshake? So he was telling these stories, and you can find it on Google or YouTube about his presentation on this case study. So basically what he and his team did was they stood in front of the restaurants and observed people for 18 hours. From the moment they open until the shop closed, or essentially nighttime. So they observed what time people buy milkshake, what they wear, were they alone, did they buy any other food, eat in or dine out, and so on. So once they do that, they're able to see things quite differently. Firstly, half of the milkshake were sold just before 8 a.m. Those who purchased comes alone, and the milkshake is the only thing they bought. And these people generally come in a car or drive straight out. So Clayton and his team concluded that all the people that came for a milkshake actually have the same job, and that is a long and boring drive to work and just need something to do while they drove to keep the commuting interesting. Because they have to keep one hand on the wheel while driving, while they only leaves them with one hand to do the other things. And milkshake fits this bill perfectly. Not exactly an earth-shattering finding, but based on this, the company changes their entire approach and are able to finally increase their sales. So contrary to popular marketing approach, in the context of this milkshake sales, the customer actually couldn't care less about the ingredient used in the milkshake. All they care about is that it fills them up during a long, boring commute to work. So Clayton Christensen went on with his famous quote, "If we understand the job, how to improve the product becomes just obvious." So just back to our initial conversation, the customer segment building blocks should be the first point of conversation when we're talking about any pivoting strategy. But that's not the end of the conversation. We need to look at what changes in other building blocks that we should be aware of. For example, channels disruption, relationship restriction, changes in buying power, partnership restriction, disruption in activities, and so on. But by all means, one of the most important thing, and this is why I chose to use the Strategizer's business model canvas as the framework to design a business model, it's because the business model canvas has the advantage in that it tells a story. It enforces that no single building block can actually stand in isolation. Each of the building blocks are interconnected to each other. They support each other. In fact, some of the business failures that we understand is as a result of one or more building block being neglected. But when all the building blocks works together, that's when we have a winning business. And that's what Alexander Osterwalder called business model innovation. And to understand how the business model canvas can be applied to pivot a business, we will look at the real-life case study of Shopify. Now, Shopify may not use the business model canvas to make the shift back then, but let's have a look at what their pivot back then looks like on the business model canvas. When looking at the Shopify, what's interesting is that the founders didn't pivot by coming up with a new idea, but rather selling an idea that they already have, but used for a different purpose. So back in 2004, Tobias Lutke, Daniel Winan, and Scott Lake attempted to open their own online snowboard equipment stores called Snow Devil in Canada. Well, they didn't like any e-commerce product on the market back then, so instead they built their own. Now, the shop wasn't that successful, but they loved the storefront they built, so they decided to sell it to other businesses that needed a better online store. And the rest is history. So Shopify applies what we call the platform business model, which means the way they work is to facilitate business transaction between two parties, which in this case is merchants and customers. The main audience for this business model is the small and medium-sized business through their subscription-based service. Although they also target the enterprise clients as well. And over 50% of their revenue they generated through the merchant-related services. And the platform is based on a cloud in what Shopify described as a multi-tenant cloud-based system that's being engineered for high scalability, reliability, and performance. Now, I would like to show you what is the business of Shopify looks like on the business model canvas. So we use the tool called Miro, which I'm going to show in the middle. But there's actually plenty of online whiteboarding tools out there. My personal favorite is the very own Strategizer platform. And I'm just going to log it into the Strategizer platform. So, okay, let me see if this is working. Yep, it's working. Look, I don't get commission for showing you this, but most online whiteboards for me is just a simple whiteboard. And on Strategize the platform, they have many canvases to choose from. And the beauty about Strategize the platform is that all the canvases work together. So let me just quickly show you. If I go to my projects, I might do one. So you have several canvases to choose from. So you have the business model canvas, which is what we typically use, and everything else centered around the business model canvas. You also have the value proposition canvas, which is the value proposition part, building block part, as well as the customer profile part of the business model canvas. But you can that doesn't stay there. You can also break down the value proposition canvas into their value map and the customer profile. So they can work together. They can be independent, or they can be inside the business model canvas building blocks. And also the beauty about the Strategize platform, it has a built-in estimation too. Now the problem, and which is why I'm not using it for this webinar, is the font is too small. And for this purpose, for this webinar purpose, we will use another tool which is called Miro. So Miro is very straightforward and easy to use. It's very simple. The canvases do stand alone and they're not connected, which is a problem if you want to, you have a bigger project. As your project grew, use multiple canvases, it's kind of hard to manage. But the advantage is very colorful, is well-designed UI. It's actually quite enjoyable to work with Miro. Okay, so let's get working on the Shopify business model. Now, before we dig into Shopify, let's look into what the business model of Snow Devils looks like. So Snow Devil. So if you're familiar with the how Shopify originates, you know that the Snow Devil was selling snowboards, or we can just call it high quality snowboard, right? Can make it bigger. So what's the customer segment they're focusing? Well, obviously, who else use snowboards but hobbyists, snowboard hobbyists, and also I would call it a professional athletes. How do they make money? Well, obviously from snowboard sales, which is a one-off transaction. Obviously, with all the snowboard, there's also a snowboard cost. Now, what do they have with as the key resources? The big thing is they have the codes. If you read carefully, one of the things that eventually become the Shopify that we know now is a code based on Ruby on the Rails, which I think Scott was working for a long period of time and really perfected to become the Shopify that we know now. They also have partners, which is likely the snowboard suppliers. Don't forget, they also deliver the channel from the website. And with the website, there's also web hosting costs. You can see why I like to use the business model canvas to facilitate clients for clients' project, because it's quickly, it's very visual. We don't have to read long pages of reports, and it's very easy when when it comes time to communicate this business model, the new pivot business model, to the entire organization. So we have a website, we have a web hosting cost, and obviously the snowboard have to be shipped. So there's a shipping cost as well, which you can factor into the pricing. It doesn't matter, but it's still a shipping cost, which has to be calculated. So how does Snow Devils plan to build relationship with their customer? Well, it's going to be generally automated because it's a website, it's a web-based platform. So when people go to their website, they buy snowboards, they don't really see anybody else. They don't really see a customer service staff. They just pay, and the payment process is completely automated. What kind of activities, key activities that the Snow Devils typically do? Well, obviously there's marketing, there's also promotion, there's also one thing which I don't like is stock management, and this is part of the reason retail is not my first option, whether that's online or offline. So that's the business model of Snow Devil. You have the high quality snowboard sell to the hobbyists or pro athletes, which then we sell through the website right here. The whole relationship from the meeting the customer and selling it is completely automated. Shipping might have to be done manually. In fact, I might just do shipping here. Delivery, and maybe this could be a shipping. All right, and this is maybe there's staff costs for inventory management. I don't know. Right, so we have the website to as a channel to sell the product, and also the delivery to get the stuff into people's home. We also have supplier as our key partners. When we say key partners, the key partners building block doesn't necessarily only consist of suppliers. There might also be actual partner, venture partner, joint ventures, and a strategic alliance and stuff like that. But for Snow Devil, their only partners are the suppliers that supplies them with snowboard, because the business model revolves around about selling a third-party snowboards. So this is the business model of the Snow Devil. So let's have a look at the business model of Shopify. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, a good starting point on any business model work is a discussion about customer segments. So to do this, I'd like to have a look at Shopify's company mission statement, which says, making commerce better for everyone. You can have a look at the Shopify investor page. So Shopify mission is to make an easy-to-use e-commerce platform enabling merchants to commercialize their products via monthly subscription fee. Or in other words, really e-commerce ecosystem, which is very typical in what we call a platform business model. So Shopify is very typical business model pattern, what we call the platform business model. We're not going to go deeper into the different patterns or different types of business models, but suffice to say, Shopify is a platform business model which facilitates the transaction, the business between two parties. So how does the business model work? First, let's start with what they already have. They have the code, which is Ruby on the Rail, the code that they developed for a long time and perfected because they couldn't find any good products out there that is easy to use and that they like. So they developed it themselves. But Now, there's a shift in the customer segment. Who are the customer segment of this new business model? Well, obviously, the one who is going to do the to be targeted is the online retailers, or just retailers, basically. It can be small, it can be large, which is basically B2C. But there's another part that I'm just going to jump into this, and I'm going to explain a little bit later, that they also target the app developer. And another one is also the theme designer. They make the codes to be available to these people so they can also make money. And also they have they need to target network partners, like, for example, Facebook. I'll explain a bit later. Now, with all this customer segment, let's see what have they got in store for retailers. Well, for retailers is, as I said earlier, their mission is to have an easy to use e-commerce platform to enable merchants to commercialize their products through a monthly subscription fee. So let's jot down e-commerce ecosystem. But for developer, let me just change this to a different color. Say, let's have, I like green. So let's, not that green. All right, so, all right, that's green. Yeah, I hope you can still see the text. So e-commerce, so for app developer, what is their value proposition for app developer? Well, they have a large base of online retailers that is using the website to sell products. So there are several parts. So e-commerce user, or just say app users. They have a large base of app users that need app development, and that's why they sell it to the app developer. And how do they deliver their main products? For retailers, it is the website, or let me change that to yellow, not that yellow, or Shopify app, right? Shopping app, Shopify app. But also for developer, they have the App Store. Not exactly sure what they call it, but let's just call it the App Store for all the Shopify user that's looking for app to be developed. Okay, so then the customer relationship is what they engage, obviously mostly automated for the online retailer, but they also hold events, Shopify events, like Shopify Unites. They hold some partner town halls events to build the community. That's how they decided to engage their audience. Now, there's also a subscription fee, which is their revenue stream. But remember what I said earlier, that half of their revenue is made from merchant solution. This comes from processing fees, transaction fees, shipping fees. They also have Shopify Capital, where they provide some financing, partner referral fees, POS hardware, and so on. There's also, because they're offering, as I said earlier, they're offering the capital, Shopify Capital, as their financing. This is also what we call the financial resource. So whereas all platform probably just provide the basic platform to sell products, where Shopify goes above and beyond, is they create they create their own resources to to help with the financing, and also obviously the technology platform, the codes is the biggest thing, the biggest resource that they have. What else is the brand? Shopify by now consider their brand as their resource, because people would just say, I just want to get into Shopify. And their brand itself actually wins, creates value, part of the value creation process. And best of all, I think something that people don't really appreciate is they have an open source ecosystem. And this is what allows, I'm going to color this to green. This is what allows app developer to take part into this ecosystem and make money outside selling, retail selling. But not just that, the activities, the key activities, they also have heavy on website maintenance, because what comes with online tools. So what comes with online tools? You need security, you need scalability, reliability, performance. You have new feature deployment, and so on. And don't forget, there's also marketing activities that they do to market Shopify products. And that's been happening all the time, not just before. But where this business model significantly, in my opinion, significantly differs from the previous one is their ability to engage different strategic partner. So if you're familiar with the concept, Shopify use cloud servers all across. It was initially AWS. Now they shifted to Google Clouds. They also have financial partners to provide them with the finance. So they will have that. Actually, I might not have that as a resource. Well, I'll have that as a resource. So finance is both a resource, but they also needs a financial partner to provide them with the financial backing. Obviously, let's consider the app developer also as a network partner. Now let's go into cost structures. What costs this new business model involves? Well, we're no longer just talking about the basic hosting costs. Like you still have the platform costs. And they're because they're constantly innovating. I'll put that as platform innovation. And look, when somebody else is doing it, and if you're doing this on the organization, you might have different opinions on what goes into each building block. So and that's okay. The idea is this business model canvas, and which is why I'm coaching and facilitating using this business model canvas. It's so easy to communicate, to use that to work on an innovation, on a new business innovation, which in this case is how to pivot. There's also a marketing cost. Marketing cost in here. So I think that's it. I mean, this is just to give you a general idea about how to visualize the where to pivot. Where before, this is simply what their business model is. You have two customer segments and just one value proposition, which is a product of high quality snowboards. Generally, all the relationship is automated, and you only have key partners as suppliers. Whereas the new business model requires them to significantly shift their mindset into selling a product, into creating an ecosystem. And when it comes to creating an ecosystem, it's not just enough to create a product, a high quality product, and have a delivery mechanism, which they did with the snowboards, but you also need to consider everything else. The platform costs, the platform innovation, and platform costs can be from security improvement, new feature introduction and stuff like that. And the big change also, apart from I mentioned the key partners building block, is the way they generated revenue. And this is what's interesting. Whereas before it was just a one-off and solely transactional revenue stream, now they shifted their entire business model into getting revenue stream from a subscription business model. And this is very interesting. It's not only give them a retention mechanism, but it's also good in that they are able to continuously add new value to their subscriber. And merchant solution is also obviously a big part of their business model. So this is how I foresee the Shopify business model. Now, again, obviously Shopify didn't have this business model. This didn't have business model canvas as the tool that they used to make the pivot. But if they have been, I would have thought this is the way they're gonna do it using the business model canvas. Okay. So now, sorry, let me just share my screen again. Where is my screen? Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. So now ask your question. What does your business model like before and after the pivot? And you can use the business model canvas to know exactly what you need to do to pivot your business. And best of all, it will actually provide you with a visualization of what your business will like before and after the transition. You know, the challenge of any strategic planning is that we may spend a long time discussing on things that won't help in achieving your goals. Now, I know a few of the planning meeting that I was involved in my corporate days are a complete waste of time. The problem, at least in my experience, is that most of our discussion are too granular and doesn't address the big picture. Some of you in this webinar may not have a business with the level of sophistication like Shopify does. But I found the business model canvas can help any organization of any size, even to the level of the business unit within the organization. For nonprofit, you may not design a value proposition for a product to sell, but you do have volunteers, you have philanthropists that have a certain social or emotional jobs that they need satisfying. The business model canvas has been known to be adapted for use in many different industry scenarios. Now, if you want to know how the business model canvas can apply to your individual situation, just pop in a question in the Q&A panel or contact me via the website or social media. I'm sure I can help you find a way for you to use the business model canvas to pivot for your specific organizational situation. So I'm going to show you in a few minutes how we in Accolade Coaching can help you make the pivot. But before that, I want to talk to you about strategic thinking. One of the most common mistakes that business make when creating a new strategy is putting too much granularity in the planning. When you are in the planning stage, all that you want to see is the big picture. That is what's really important for you and your business. After that, details can be added later. Now, this is why I use the business model canvas as our coaching framework. The business model canvas will force you into thinking strategically rather than granularly, even if you're trying to work out the number. For example, when you're trying to measure the size of an opportunity to pivot. You might recall I mentioned in a strategizer platform that it can help you estimate how much money you expect to generate from the new opportunity. But the beauty about it is they manage to keep the whole thing still at a high level. You will not need to take into account small details like a change in currency exchange, for example, or the shipping costs, maybe shipping costs. Because during the planning stage, it matters less to know about it. Now, later, once you decided that you want to pursue an opportunity, details like this can be added to validate if the idea is really worth chasing. So, essentially, Anyone with a pen and paper can use the business model canvas to start planning how to pivot the business. But where a professional facilitator like us comes in handy is we have the tools ready to go to help you facilitate this change. So before I show you our services and offers, let me explain the typical audience we serve. In our business, we cater for two types of crowd, and they differ only in the team that they manage. So for us, strategic leaders are those who are involved in strategic planning. You are either a business or organizational or a team leader or have a team under you to set the direction, and you're responsible to set the direction of a new or old strategy. The rest is what we call practitioners. Now, this range from members of a strategic team or simply individual business owners and entrepreneurs who has no team but still also need help with strategy. You may also be an individual in an organization who are interested in making a strategic change, but you need to get a buy-in from the management, or you are part of the management and you need to have a buy-in from the rest of the board. Well, you're in this group as well. So just to clarify further, the types of strategy that we do in our business, we only do what people call the high-level strategy. And what do we mean by that? Well, low-level strategy is basically things that you execute on the ground, things like sales, marketing, social media strategy. We do still have our old sales training course, if you're interested, which I mentioned earlier, and the methodology is still relevant today, but we don't do this as a primary service anymore. High-level strategy are things like business modeling, competitive strategy, where our Blue Ocean framework comes into play, value innovation, and so on. And any size of organization need a high-level strategy plan, not just a big corporation. They only differs in scope and scale. Look, this low-level strategy, they're all important. But what we found over the course of our business, that many of these low-level strategy don't work because companies get the big picture wrong. And when you got the big picture wrong, when you got the wrong business model, weak value proposition, or tap into the wrong market segment, you will end up spending a lot more money and time on the low-level strategy. On the contrary, when you got the big picture right, everything else becomes easier and cheaper. So this is what we have available to offer to everyone. Obviously, since all of you are here, you are familiar with the free webinar. The problem with the free webinar is that it's designed to cover a whole range of topics in a short period of time. As you would have seen in today's webinar, there's not a lot of time to talk about job to be done concept in details or how we do the customer mapping. Now, this is something that we plan to cover in more details in the premium webinars. Where webinars are where you'll learn concept, workshops are more practical, where we will do exercises and mock-up projects. It's still online, but it's more practical than premium webinar. Our e-learning is more than just an online course. We design our e-learning in a way that you can take this as an online course, but at the same time, if you need a cost-effective and time-efficient way to roll out the strategy learning process company-wide, we can do that here using e-learning. Now, all this, you can get it either free with free webinars and all, or at a special price with our premium membership, which brought me to this table. So this is where our membership plans can be of great value to you. Basic membership is free. If by signing up as basic member, you can get our newsletter, access our very own Q&A features, and access to all our free webinar replays at no cost. And on top of that, you also get 10% off our premium webinars as well as our remote strategy workshop costs, which we plan to launch next year. If you upgrade to our premium membership, then you get free access to all our upcoming premium webinars, e-learning, and also you get one complimentary strategy session with me. On top of that, you get 20% off our remote strategy workshop. A frequently asked question is this: if I've subscribed to the newsletter, which I believe some of you have, am I automatically a basic member? The answer is no. So if you're a basic member, you will receive our newsletter, but not the other way around. In order to deliver all the features available to basic members, you need to create an account on our website, not just submit an email address. So if you've given your email address and sign up to our newsletter, you will still need to register for a new account to be a basic member. But you will not receive a duplicate newsletter when it comes time to send out a mail out. Here's the thing: due to coronavirus, we don't plan to publicly launch our premium offer, membership offer, until at least early next year. But all the other offers are already available now. So if you believe that you or your organization need access to the products offered by premium membership, send me a message either in the webinar Q&A box or through the Contact Us page on our website. So here's my offer to you now. We will launch this as a normal price of $197 next year. But if you click on the pop-up on your webinar window, you can get this for only $97 recurring or until you cancel. So it doesn't matter if the price has gone up to $500 a year. If you subscribe now, you will still only pay. If you subscribe now and you don't cancel, obviously, you will still pay $97 per year. And if you remember, probably about 4 slides back, you are either a strategy practitioner or a strategic leader. This premium offer is best suited for strategy practitioners. However, if you are a strategic leader within your organization, then you definitely have to look at our remote facilitation solutions, which we will custom made for your organization need. I mentioned briefly that we've made the shift to remote learning in 2019. We didn't do this with the expectation of coronavirus, of course, but we see that there's a huge problem with the facilitation market. For once, it's actually quite difficult to put together an efficient facilitation session together. So in the past, we've worked with many companies with offices in multiple locations, and it's quite difficult to just set aside a time that works for everyone, let alone managing the logistical challenge in order to put this together. Our remote solution helps companies bring together their strategic team wherever they are in the world. Well, of course, the only challenge is time zone, which unfortunately there's no easy workaround. We utilize the widely online meeting tools such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams or other meeting tools that's provided by the platform. For example, Miro have their own meeting tools feature. And if you have an online collaboration space, you can just use it, but you don't have to, since it will be included in your fee during the engagement. We will provide that. We also employ the use of AI power tool or artificial intelligence to increase the delivery efficiency of our facilitation service. Now, this help ease the additional workload on your team that usually comes with any strategy alignment or implementation processes. And we also offer an optional e-learning solutions, which we built ourselves, which provide an extremely cost-effective solution to educate every level of your organization on the new strategy, which definitely goes a long way towards implementing your strategy successfully. And this works with small or large organization. As I said, the difference is only in the scale and the scope of the project. So to summarize our offers, if you're a strategy practitioner, definitely subscribe to one of our membership offers. If you are a strategic leaders, do get in touch with us to see what we can do for your organization. At the very least, please sign up to our newsletter. Get up-to-date information about future events and offers that may be beneficial for you. Now, before you go, please follow us on our social media channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Not so much Instagram at the moment, but we do have an Instagram channel. And as I said earlier, you will all be receiving a post-event survey on your email. So make sure you put down your thoughts on about this webinar on that survey, and what other topics, what future topics should you would like to see in the next webinar. Cool. So we are at the end of the webinar. If some of your questions still haven't been answered, don't worry too much. We will try to get back to you via email. By the way, all of our membership accounts do have access to Q&A features, which allow you to ask any strategy questions, a high-level strategy, obviously. Ask any strategy questions all day long. So you don't have to wait for the next webinar before you can ask your question. So make sure that you sign up to either one of our membership. That reminds me, you will be receiving the discount code. So if you have a look at the previous slides before, I promise you that you will receive a discount for $97. And everybody went like, how do I get this on? So I will send you the link to the discount code, or if it's easier, it depends on how many people would be interested in this. I would send a discounted link to the sign up page. Okay. I think that's it. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for taking part in this webinar. I hope you have some good takeaway out of this webinar, and I'm really looking forward for you to be part of our future webinars. Again, follow our social media channels that I showed you earlier, and also sign up to our newsletter or membership programs. Looking forward, and have a good Christmas and New Year. Take care.